met a man in an old fried rice shop in China once. We exchanged pleasantries. Although I'd been studying the language for the past 6 years, my Chinese had never arrived at a point where I felt comfortable enough to slouch in my seat and have a casual conversation with a stranger. I appreciated how patient he was with me. We discussed how my summer had gone, why I was in Chengdu, and if I'd been to the Red Panda exhibit downtown. I told him I'd check it out. Eventually, my Chinese began to run out, and I found myself repeating words and nodding my head over and over in an awkward fashion. I began eyeing the door, hoping for a chance to escape the conversation, to run around the corner back to my hotel and recuperate. My gaze snapped back to meet his, and I realized a silence had slowly formed as I was focusing elsewhere. He smiled. He told me I reminded him of his son, who had left the city a few years ago in search of a new job. The man had been living alone ever since. I asked him in my broken Chinese how he'd managed to stay happy living alone. He told me that every morning he'd find one way to improve someone else's day, regardless of whether it was a simple compliment or an actual task. It's important to note the pitfalls of life, he said, to understand and accept them. It's even more important to remain positive above all else in spite of these hardships. Of course, this is my interpretation of the words he said to me. I'll never know what he really said, but I choose to believe that he got his message across. I wish I could tell him now that I do my best to live up to the ideals of that old man. While I haven't been entirely consistent with improving someone's life each day, I find that I maintain a much more positive outlook than a majority of my peers. This attitude has always had a way of getting me to look on the bright side. Sometimes it's hard to convince others of this mindset. After all, I'm not an old Chinese man in a corner shop.